everybody. Today I just want to show you how to make face masks. These are really helpful for lots of things, but especially right now it's helpful during the COVID-19 pandemic. You can find out where you can donate these to your local hospitals. The nurses have been running really low on masks that are needed to protect both them and the patients. These also can be used just in general to avoid cold and flu season, or however you want to use them. I personally use them whenever myself and my son make trips to the hospital. Right now he is in cancer treatment, so it's really important to protect his immune system. And so we get quite a lot of use out of these. So I will just show you how I make them. Let's get started.
Items you will need for this project include a sewing machine, scissors, all-purpose thread, thick elastic cord, pins, 26 gauge floral wire, a pencil, the pattern cut out, 100% cotton quilting fabric, a tape measure or ruler, and an iron.
Okay, so your very first step is going to be tracing the pattern onto your fabric. You're going to want to turn your fabric with the bad side up, the side without the print. And then you're just going to take your pattern and lay it on here. I'm using the outside for my printed color. And you're just going to place that down. Something you do need to keep in mind is that however your pattern falls on the fabric is the way that the print is going to show up on the face. So if you want it to be nicely centered, you just want to keep that in mind while you are drawing your tracing lines. So then you are going to take your pencil and carefully trace around your pattern. I'm just lining it up here. Okay. And then you will actually need to flip the pattern over so that you have the correct sides lined up when it is later on the face. And then trace around that one. Now we're going to do the exact same thing, but with the inside pattern. Okay, then the second step would be cutting out the tracings that you just did. Okay, so now that you have all your pieces cut out, you're just going to want to place them so that the pattern is facing in, like so, and the wrong side is facing out, just like that. Same thing with your solid print. Stack together. Make sure that the edges are lined up nicely. And then the next step will be to sew along the curve right here. And same thing on the next piece. Okay, now that you've sewed both pieces, you can go ahead and clip the threads, and then we are going to cut little slits along the curve so that it turns properly. Here, approximately
1/2 inch apart, you'll want to make these little clips and be very careful to not cut the stitches you've just made. Just little 1/4 inch cuts, about 1/2 inch apart, all the way around the curve. Just like so. Same thing on the other piece. Now for the next step, you're going to want to make a 1/4 inch seam on just the solid fabric only. So while it's still turned wrong side out right here, you are going to then turn the little piece over and fold it about approximately 1/4 inch, and then take some pins to hold that in place. You'll just pin it through right here. Same thing on the other side. Alright, so then we're going to go ahead and sew down what we've just folded over. Okay, now the one edge you can see is sewn down nicely. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side that you've already pinned. Now that part is completed, both edges are sewed down, and now comes the fun part. We're going to put both pieces together. So I'm going to start by turning the pattern piece right side out, and you'll want to go ahead and stretch that seam so that it's completely turned, like so. You're starting to see the mask take shape here. Nice. And then you're going to take the solid piece, and it's still turned wrong side out, and you're going to lay that on top of the pattern piece around it here. So now you have both of their wrong sides facing out, like so. And just carefully line up the seam here, and then we are going to pin it down. So I like to start right at the seam to make sure both pieces are centered properly. And I'm going to start placing my pins. So I do one here at the very center seam, one on the other side, and then I go all the way to the end of the pattern, or I'm sorry, all the way to the end of the solid piece and place a pin there, and then a pin in the center. Just want to make sure everything's secure so it doesn't start sliding all over the place when you begin sewing. And then same thing along that top edge. Make sure that the seam is lined up, centered perfectly, and then you're just going to pin it down. Now don't be too concerned if it is a little bit off center. This pattern is fairly forgiving. Of course you want to get it as close as you can, but don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. Okay, now it should look like this, with your wrong sides out, like so, and pins along both edges of the solid piece. And now I'm going to sew that together. Now the bottom edge has been sewed, so you can take all your pins out of just that side. Okay, now you just need to sew across the top edge, just like we did the bottom edge. Okay, you can just clip all your threads and then we'll take the pins out. Okay, now we'll really see the mask start to come together here. You're gonna turn from this pocket section, you're gonna go ahead and turn the whole mask right side out. And then it might take you a little bit to get all the seams pushed out. Just make sure it's completely turned, there's no weird folds or anything. Alright, so for the next step, you're just going to iron everything into place that you've turned. So I'm just pressing the seams here. And then flip it over and do the same thing on this side. Make sure the seams are all stretched as far as they can stretch. You can really see the mask start to take shape now. This will be your pocket. And we are almost done. Okay, so the next step is to put the wire in. So I'm just grabbing this. I'm using a 26 gauge floral wire. In other words, a twist tie. And let me see how. So it is about 7.5 inches of wire. And then I am gonna fold over these edges so you don't get poked through the mask. See there, a nice little fold. Also, I like this coating on here. It protects the wire from rusting in multiple washes, and it just is a little bit more comfortable than a raw wire. So you're gonna fold this side too, and then you're gonna take the whole thing and just fold that in half, like so. And this half part is gonna be your marker for the bridge of the nose. So now we're gonna insert this into the pocket of the mask and line up that bridge of the nose fold with the bridge of the nose in your pattern. So I'm finding it here and I'm lining it up to the edge, and then I'm stretching the wire down on each side so that it lines up. And then I'm going to take some pins to pin that in place so it's not sliding around when I sew the hem right there. So I start with a needle right in the center. Okay, that's holding the wire there on the bridge of the nose. And then I come down to the end of the wire. Now it should look like this, with all the little needles pointing out. And I'm gonna go in and sew along that top hem. And I am sewing to the inside of the wire so that the wire is going through the pocket of the hem. And I'm gonna try hard not to sew on the wire, but it is okay if you overlap a little bit. Okay, now you can just clip your little threads and pop out all the pins. Okay, and then we have a nice adjustable nose bridge. As you can see, the wire will help hold it to whatever the shape of your nose is. Starting to come together. All right, now we are going to just sew that bottom seam. This is not 100% necessary, but I think that it does look better, and it helps the mask to keep its shape even after a few washes, so I just like to do it. So here I'm going to line up that edge and go ahead and sew across the bottom. Now we are going to put in the elastic to attach the mask to the ears. So I am using a thick elastic cord, and you can find this at any craft store. I found it in the beading section at Michael's. It's normally used for making stretchy bracelets and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to cut here about 6 3/4 inches. And I'm going to cut 2 just like that. So I'll just take the one I just cut to measure my second one. I've found that 6 3/4 inch is just the right size to give some stretch and shape to the mask without straining the ears too much. Of course, it's going to fit everybody's face a little bit differently, so you may even just want to hold that up and see how it works on your face, but for a universal size, I've found that the 6.75 inches is about right. So to make a pocket for the elastic to go into, we are going to need to first pleat this edge and then fold it over. So we're making a little pocket that also has a nice finished edge. So I'm going to use my iron to just press down where I would like the mask to take shape. Okay, back over here at my ironing board. I am first going to fold in this edge. This will help give it a nice finished look. So I'm just going to press that down there. And you may need to even just hold it on there for a second. Okay, and now I'm going to flip it one more time. And I actually line it right up to this pocket. Just, I think that looks nicest. And I'm gonna press down that edge as well. So let's hop back over to the sewing machine and get started on that. Okay, so now I'm just gonna sew down each edge. And we have it lined up right here. I'm just going to sew right across here. And same thing on the other side. Now, the very last step, we are going to be threading the elastic through. Okay, so you're just going to take your elastic and try to open up this pocket here that you've just created. And then we are just going to thread that elastic right through. And there it comes through the other side. And then we're gonna tie those loose edges together. And I try to get the knot as tight as possible with as minimal elastic loss as possible. You'll see what I mean here in a second. So I'm tying the knot, and then I'm just gonna pull on it so I have hardly any tail left, because you want as much elastic as you can to take the pressure off the ears. So there we have a good tight knot. And now I'm just gonna rotate this elastic so the knot goes inside the pocket. I'm just gonna push the little knot in there and pull it through this side. And there we have one completed elastic, like so. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and there you have it. Your completed masks with the ear loops and the adjustable nose wire. And it also has a pocket here. So you can put any kind of filter in that pocket. Those can be purchased online. I would bet that there's a shortage of those right now, so you could use whatever you have. You can use it without a filter, but you can put something in there for a little more protection if you desire. So let's just see how it fits. All right, there we have it. These ear loops can be adjusted too, just by rotating this out and tying the knot a little tighter. But it's just going to depend from person to person what feels right. Okay. Now, because I am making a bunch of these to donate to my local hospital, they will be double washed. So I washed this fabric before I began the project, and now that the mask is complete, I'm going to run it through the wash again just to make sure that it is nice and clean and safe for the medical providers. That's the whole point, right? So we don't want to get them sick or have any allergens at all possible on the mask. So there you have it. I hope that you will join me in helping your medical staff during this really difficult time. I think that they will really appreciate it, and it's really the least we can do as crafters. So get out there and help your community. Thanks for watching.